Hey, what's going on, guys? Hey, I get asked a lot about failure, what it's taught me, how I've learned or grown from it. And it's actually a question that I've used from time to time for my podcast guests. Hopefully, you are subscribed for the Ripple Effect podcast with yours truly, Steve Harper. I have some amazing, amazing guests. I feel almost guilty recording these people and the nuggets that they are willing to share with me. But along the way, I've picked up a lot of great knowledge, including when I asked the question, how have you learned from failure? And it's actually a ripple connection question that really does drive more of an insight as to who that person is, where they've been, what hasn't gone well, how they've been able to bounce back or bounce off of failure to other greatness. I recall a book by legendary entrepreneur Harvey McKay called Fired Up. And I think his entire premise was to go out and interview famous people who had been fired. They made a mistake, they got laid off, some major thing happened, and they thought their world was over. And how most of them utilized that failure as that anchor point to say, that's where I don't want to go. I know where I do want to go. And so that drive and motivation just got re-inspired by somebody saying, you can't do it, or you're no longer a part of the team. And so I think about that a lot. I think about the lessons failure has taught me, and it wasn't easy. Here's the thing. We want to run from our failures. There's a heavy dose of shame attached to failure. And that's understandable, right? That's certainly, things that happen in not our finest moments. We don't really want to go back and relive it or re-examine it. And so I think that a lot of times, especially for entrepreneurs, that we don't often do enough revisiting the failures and really kind of busting through that exoskeleton that we've crafted for ourselves, where we can no longer acknowledge that we had anything to do with that failure or that we screwed up or we messed up in any way. And you actually got to cut through that because our ego doesn't want us to acknowledge that we did something wrong or that we could have done something better or we let circumstances get out of our control. So the ego wants you to focus on how great you are today, where you've been, what you're doing, how awesome you are. Going backwards really, it's like kicking in the nuts, right? Doesn't like it. And so, the reality is that when you actually can break through that exoskeleton and actually get to the heart of why a failure occurred, whether it be you got fired from a job, whether you lost a big account, whether it be some other means of what led you to not get the outcome that you had hoped for, there are often really important lessons there. For me, it took a long time because there was so much shame. When things didn't go my way, I never wanted to go back and acknowledge it. I wanted to only focus and be the Mr. Positive Steve that I could be publicly. But I never wanted to go back and be like, hey, man, I've had some failures too. I didn't want to ever be that guy. When I finally got over that and kicked the ego to the corner and said, shut up. Hey, be quiet over there. I am working, doing some heavy lifting, and started looking at why failures happened. Almost every root cause of the failure was me. I trusted the wrong people. I made decisions out of nicety or out of laziness. I didn't put in the work. I, in one instance, really, crap the bed on which was truthful and which wasn't. I let my ego play a way bigger part than they should have, especially in the early days as an entrepreneur. And ultimately, I allowed myself to feel like there was no way that this could end. And then it did. I felt like I was too important to be replaced or too important to not be a part of something. And then you realize, yeah, you need to go. You needed to go. And so when you go back and you look at those things and you're like kind of pulling it out and you're like looking at it from all sides and it's like, oh, this, different colored side and this, oh, crap. Yeah, I really should have done that. You start looking at it and then you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? What are the things that I can take away from this situation, this job firing, this, partnership that ended, this whatever. You fill in the blank for you. I can't fill it in for you. But whatever the failure might be, how can you learn from it? What should you take away from it? Now that you've got some time and distance, what are the lessons that are there waiting for you to revisit after you bust through the exoskeleton to get to the heart of what the hell happened? I think it's such a hugely powerful way. It's huge. It's a huge way to go back and actually expand and grow today. You don't make the same decisions, get caught up in the same mired BS that caught you before. And you can actually be a better leader. You can be a better friend. You can be a better boss. You can be a better spouse. You can be a better you. So when I think about how have I learned from failure, I'm grateful that I have listened to the lessons that it had to teach me. It may not always be easy, and you might require some distance from it before you can actually go back and look at things objectively, but almost always ends up being because of you. And that's not to say that you need to feel bad about it. It's so that you can learn from it, so that whatever happened in the past doesn't get repeated in the future. There you go. I would love to hear what you think about this. Would love to hear any thoughts, ideas, how you've been motivated or inspired by your past failures, or how scary and difficult it might be to go back and uncover that. Maybe you and I can dig in there together, right? Sometimes it's the buddy system, right? Let's go back and look at it with no judgment, right? That could be super helpful. But let me know. Drop a comment below. As always, if you like what I'm saying and what I'm sharing here, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like. It's a big button, but boom, smash that mofo. And if somebody can benefit from these words, from this little bit of ripple wisdom, please share it. Go out there, make a difference in the world, make a difference in someone's life, and you will make a difference in your own life. And as always, ripple on. My coffee is getting cold. I really need to get some ending theme music.